The Glock 19 and the FMK 9C1, let's check it out. The Glock 19 is one of the most popular selling firearms in America, not only with law enforcement and civilians, but now with military, and has a definitely proven track record since 1982. In 2010, FMK came onto the market, definitely heavily inspired by the Glock pistol, and so that's the reason why we're going to do this review. But the FMK is really starting to take off in a lot of areas. So while there are a lot of similarities to these two pistols, there are a lot of differences, and we're going to check it out. I've been a huge Glock fanboy for years. In fact, I've owned Glocks for over 25 years. And they're great pistols, they're reliable, they're just rugged. I've always called them the AK-47 of the pistol world. I mean, they're just super pistols. And in fact, the Navy SEALs just adopted the Glock 19 for their sidearm. So that just goes to a testament of what these pistols are all about. Now, we're going to look today, though, at a comparison between the Glock 19 and the FMK. Now, when I say comparison, there's not a winner here. There's a lot of differences between the two, and obviously the Glock 19 has proven itself. The FMK, coming out since 2010, it's really just starting to get traction. But one of the things, because I'm such a Glock fan over the years, I definitely was intrigued by the FMK. I've been watching these for about 3 years. In fact, I just did a review on this, and I'll have it linked or annotated right here for you to check out. First thing we're going to do is make sure the guns are unloaded, and they're all clear. Now, as far as similarities to these two pistols, they're both polymer frame, they're both striker fire pistols. Both of them are in 9mm. They have the standard trigger type safety, and we're going to look at that a little closer. The dimensions are honestly almost exact as far as silhouette size, as far as length and height and width. So, and really any little difference is almost incremental. They disassemble the same. Even the sights are compatible. I mean, you can interchange the sights. The Glock sights go on the FMK. The controls are pretty close, and they both have accessory rails. So that's the common denominators between these two pistols. But there are, again, a lot of differences. And one of the big differences, of course, as you can see, is the grip. The standard Glock grip, it is definitely fairly thick. Part of that has to do with the polymer magazine, because the magazine's thick. And so the grip itself, which I love this grip. I have a lot of time invested in the grip itself, shooting the Glock 19 and all the Glocks for that matter. It just feels natural in my hand because I've spent a lot of time shooting this pistol. The FMK is a complete departure from the Glock grip design. For one thing, it has more of a curve right here, which makes it a little easier for me to get my natural point of aim. Also, one of the big things is this piece at the back. This is a rubber recoil reducing back strap. It's an overmold. It's rubber, but it's over a polymer frame. So you have the softness, and I'm going to tell you guys, because I've shot this quite a bit, it definitely helps with the felt recoil. And then you have more of these grooves, this big cavity right here, and it just comes in. It almost lets your fingers kind of come in and rest into it. With the Glock, and especially with the Gen 3 texturing, sometimes it can feel a little bit like it could slide a little bit out of your hand. And it's one of the reasons why I put Talon grips on all my Glocks. I really love the Talon grips. In fact, my other Glock 19, I have Talon grips on it. I have foregone that with this because I wanted to be able to show the factory finish. But honestly, if I had my preference, I would add Talon grips to this. With this, you don't need Talon grips because you've got a really nice rubberized back strap. It does have some waves here that are slight finger grooves, but not really finger grooves. Here you can see how they're more pronounced with the Glock, and then with the FMK, it's just more of a natural feel to it. A lot of guys really are going away from finger grooves altogether. In fact, my buddy at Wheaton Arms, Robbie, does a lot of modifications to Glock frames, removing those finger grooves. And then here you might be able to get a better look at a little bit of the angle. You can see that this back strap kind of comes out somewhat more than the Glock does. The Glock kind of comes down at an angle, but it's more straight. And speaking of magazines, we're going to pop these out. The basic polymer Glock magazine, which works well. And then we have the steel magazine out of the FMK. One of the things about that magazine, though, it's thinner. And so it's going to allow you to have a little bit of a smaller grip. And as you can see here, this is not even close to going in. With this magazine, it bumps around. So that's going to give you a reduction in grip width. But one of the downsides of the FMK magazine is it's a little more expensive. They run about $30. The Glock factory mags run around the $25 range. Also, there are a lot of aftermarket magazines that are coming out, whether it's Magpul, ETS, and others. I definitely would not recommend the Korean mags. They seem to be spotty at best. But another big plus for the 19 is that you can go with a 17-round magazine out of the G17, or you can go with what I like to call the Fun Sticks, a 33-round magazine. So you have a lot of options with the Glock. The Glock 19 carries 15 in 1, the FMK is 14 in 1, so we have a 1-round advantage with the 19. The FMK comes with 2 magazines, the Glock 19 Gen 3 comes with 2 magazines. The Gen 4s are now coming with 3 magazines. Now, a few things about the Gen 4 that supersede even the Gen 3 is you have interchangeable back straps, you can move the mag release to the other side, and just a couple of internal differences, but pretty much those are the big differences. The texturing on the Gen 3 is a little bit different. And those are a few features that the FMK does not have. One of the things is magazine release interchangeability. The magazine release is on one side, just like the Gen 3. The Glock is a little more recessed, and then with the FMK, it does come out just a little bit more. Also, the slide release on the Glock is very minimal, which I like, and the FMK has a little bit more of an extended slide release. One of the things I love about both of these pistols is they're very thin trim to the slide. There's not a lot of levers really sticking out. And even though the FMK has a little bit of an extension, it's still very close to the frame. Now these guns are definitely really close in silhouette. Again, I mean, there is no difference between the length here and there's no difference between the length here. Now the actual slide on the FMK does have these recesses, which makes it kind of thinner on top, whereas the Glock is more block, more rectangular. But what's really funny is the FMK's slide is actually just a little bit thicker. But then when you get down to the frames are the exact same width, and really the Glock frame comes out past. Again, these guns are really, as far as thickness goes, identical. But the Glock has the squared off trigger guard, whereas the FMK has the rounded trigger guard. Both of them are pretty ample. I think the FMK has a little bit more room here for gloved hands. Both have accessory rails. The FMK rail is a little thinner, but pretty much in the same place. The slide serrations are vertical, but one of the things about the Glock is it's a little more aggressive. The FMK is really fairly shallow, but yet it's not that difficult to grab hold of. But the Glock definitely has a little bit stronger serrations. As far as sights go, both guns come with the polymer Glock sights, just like this, with the box and then the dot at the front. These are Ameriglow's GL301s night sights. They're great sights, so that's just a non-issue. One thing I do want to bring up, though, is you get an extra set of sights with the FMK, and these are 3-dot sights that'll fit right into your gun, and I thought that was a pretty cool addition. One thing the FMK has is a loaded chamber indicator right here at the back, and you'll see that it says loaded if out. We're going to insert this dummy round. Now the button protrudes somewhat, and it is tactile. So it's tactile, visual. One of the things I mentioned too is that this long extractor, and the reason for that is that it also actuates the loaded chamber indicator. So it actually pushes that back and makes that. But here we see proudly American. And again, FMK, very patriotic. Which you can also see right here, freedom and liberty. And thank you, Armed Forces. Here with the dummy round inserted, the Glock, it just sticks out just a touch. But it's almost, you really can't tell it. I really can't call that a loaded chamber indicator because it's really very minimal. Out, it does recess a little bit more. The slide finish on the Glock is a really hard Tenifer original finish, but now it's gone to something else. It's very similar to Tenifer finish. The FMK has a parkerized finish, which is matte. It does show some shiny spots when you bump it around a little bit, which parkerizing does. They do offer other models in Cerakote and some different colors, different frame colors as well, and so does Glock. We're going to check trigger pull on both pistols, making sure the guns are unloaded. Guys, I'm telling you, just be safe. We're going to go with the FMK first. 5 pounds, 15.5 ounces. 6 pounds, 1 ounce. 6 pounds, 0.05 ounces. That is really consistent. The Glock 19. 6 pounds, 4 ounces. 5 pounds, 15 ounces. Pretty close to the same trigger pull. And those are just a couple of tests, but I tested these a number of times before I started the video just to get a good idea. Now we're going to look at the actual trigger pull itself. On the Glock, comes back a little bit of grit, stacking, and then pow. Actually a pretty crisp, once you get to here, pretty crisp. FMK. There's a little bit of stacking, then you got some take up, then there's a stacking which stops there, and then it clicks. Almost like a two-stage trigger. I will say that the Glock definitely has the FMK beat, but one of the things about the FMK is the more I've shot this, the smoother the trigger has gotten. Reset. Right there. Reset. There we go. You know, one of the things that I want to point out, especially you guys that are just super Glock fanboys, and I understand the appeal of the Glock, is that there are other options out there. And I had one guy to mention this on the FMK video, that, you know, the Glock 19 would never be beaten by anything. Guys, you know, that's probably what they were saying back in the 1800s with the Colt single action. These companies that are coming out are keeping Glock on their toes, if nothing else. You know, coming out with really good designs. And yes, it is heavily inspired by the Glock. And being able to be inspired, just like, you know, music artists are inspired by great musicians. And it brings the style up, and it progresses. And that's the same thing with pistols like this. A newcomer like this with the FMK is something that keeps Glock going strong. You have a really cool pistol that has some differences, and yet, you know, it has some similarities. Now, as far as disassembly, we're going to go ahead and just make sure the guns are unloaded, the magazines are removed. With the Glock, pull the trigger, pull it back about 1/8 of an inch, and then just open the slide up. With the FMK, pull the trigger. One thing that I will note is that the takedown levers are a little more difficult to get to than the Glock. These are a little more rounded off, and they do slip in your finger. As you can see, they are very close in design. The rails on the FMK are a little bit longer, but the locking block is a little smaller. As far as the design here at the back, very similar. Here the slide configuration, definitely both of them are polymer guide rods and barrel link up. You can look at it, it's pretty much the same. The red here, you can see it in the FMK, just a little bit rounded off, a firing pin safety, but pretty much very close. We're shooting at 7 yards, Freedom Munitions, 115 grain full metal jacket. These are the two groups. Shooting a little bit low, but a decent solid group, except that first shot. And then with the FMK, you can see it was a nice little group. I started kind of rushing it there toward the end, and it started to climb. But both really comparable accuracy. Here at the range, no malfunctions whatsoever using Freedom Munitions 9mm. They were just flawless. One thing that we had early on with the FMK was some of the magazines not holding the slide back. After the first magazine each, they held back fine every time, and that's what we experienced with this one. And the Glock, of course, you know, it always holds back. But really a flawless day at the range. Had a great time. Putting the two together, they're definitely similar, but really they shoot differently. The FMK, because of the grip angle, because of that rubber piece at the back, it's really comfortable to shoot. The Glock 19, you know, I'm so used to it, it's almost as though it's not fair. But, you know, one of the things I always recommend do is when you find a pistol is to put two that you really like, or a number, is to lay them out side by side. See which one fits your hand the best. See which one is your most natural grip angle, which when you bring it up, it's a natural line of sight. That'll help you a lot in choosing a firearm. But also just remember quality. The track record of the Glock is unsurpassed. The FMK, my track record has been no problems whatsoever except for those early magazine issues, but no malfunctions as far as stovepipes or any kind of misfeeds. So I've found that this has been a very reliable pistol, one that I've got some other things coming up because it's just so new and so unique. I really like this pistol. The Glock 19, it's one of my standbys. I'll always have this gun. It's just a fantastic firearm. Hopefully this will help you kind of make a decision on what you want and what you're looking for. Especially you guys that already have a Glock 19, you've been looking at the FMK, you're like, I'm going to try that out. It's a much cheaper option. Great for your truck, car gun, you know, a lot of other things, a second gun. It's like I always tell my wife when she asks why I bought another gun. I tell her, it's my 401G, baby.
Oh yeah, baby.
Besides just a proven track record with the Glock, one of the biggest differences between these two pistols is price. Your Glock Gen 3s run around the $500 range, $475 to $500. The Gen 4s run about $550. The FMKs are running $350. I've seen some for less, some for a little bit more. So you're getting, about $150 to $200 difference with the FMK. Over the long haul, will this gun hold up as well as the Glock? Well, that remains to be seen. I know early on, FMK had some issues with reliability, and that's one of the reasons why we have the Gen 2. And so, and their Glocks had some reliability issues, especially with their Gen 4s. In fact, I have a Gen 4 that has reliability issues. And also when the Glock 42s came out, those first guns were terrible. I mean, they had a lot of problems. The magazines were part of it. So, companies have issues with different things, but it's the long term is what really makes it. And I'll tell you what, guys, I shoot a lot of guns, and there's just something about this FMK that's kind of tripped my trigger. No, FMK is not paying me, or in fact, no gun company pays me a penny. I refuse any kind of deal like that. Guys, if I didn't really feel the way I do about this pistol, I couldn't recommend it, because people are going to buy this pistol on my recommendation, and it could be the difference between life and death. That is extremely important to me. Take that for what you will, but the FMK is a good, solid pistol. Now, to wrap things up, the Glock 19 is definitely a proven design. It is the AK-47 of the pistol world, just proven. And that speaks volumes for this pistol. It also holds 15-in-1. The finish is a little bit better, not a little bit. This Tennifer finish is legendary. It really is. It's just fantastic. So, you've got some pluses there. Now, with the FMK, the ergonomics is superior. I mean, it just is. The rubber backstrap here, it just makes this super comfortable. The price on this pistol, though, it's hard to compare it, because we're talking about $350 to $500 to $550. So $100 to $200, $150 to $200 difference in price. Now, if you want the ambidextrous features, go with the Gen 4. Your Glock's going to be the one, the Gen 4, and you're going to have your back straps, and you're going to have your extra magazine, but you're going to pay $50 more. So, you know, it's all give or take, guys. I mean, it just is what it is. And I think we've got two excellent pistols here. The FMK, to me, very patriotic company, fairly new to the market, and one that, again, is keeping Glock on its toes. Love Glock and would love to see even more innovation from those guys, and hopefully companies like this are pushing for that innovation and then in some areas exceeding it. So, FMK, you've done a great job on this. I'm looking forward to some more work with you. And then the Glock 19, you're my old standby. You'll always be around. So two great guns. As far as one versus the other, be like me. Just own both. So the Glock 19 and the FMK 9C1, thumbs way up. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. I've been a Glock fanboy for years, 20 years. I own a ton of Glocks, and so for all you guys that are going to get butt hurt, but one of the downsides of the FMK magazine comes with 2 magazines. The familiarity with the Glock, you know, helped with making it. As far as final thoughts on the beep, beep, beep. There's a lot of backing up going on.